Hello, welcome to the Skate Podcast. I'm Brandon.
I'm Josh.
Today we're going to be talking about The Dark Crystal,
Rambo Last Blood,
Terminator Dark Fate,
Robert Pattinson as the new Batman,
and Godzilla King of the Monsters, along with our main feature,
The Black Hole. I was hoping you would say it with me.
Nope, not kinda.
Hey, thanks for tuning back in, everybody. We appreciate it. If you're new here, welcome. We hope you enjoy the show. Let's get started.
Alright, so you wanted to talk about a Dark Crystal trailer for the Netflix show.
I do. See, we talked about this during... Was it when we did the Dark Crystal we
Probably.
talked about this? Or we might even mentioned it when our...
Go back to the archives, listen to the Dark Crystal.
Coming soon, maybe? I don't know. Somewhere we did mention this. No, I'll tell you what it was. It was one of the status reports, I think. It was brought up.
Okay.
So yeah. Now we have a trailer.
So when does it come out?
August 30th.
Okay.
This year.
So there's a trailer out for it. You wanted to watch it?
Yes, let's
All right,
do.
Let's check it out. Okay, so I don't know a lot about this show. It's going to be a prequel, I assume, to the movie.
Right.
I was a little bit disappointed in the amount of CG I saw. I was hoping there'd be none, and obviously there's some, but it doesn't look bad.
I think any movie nowadays is going to have some degree of CGI.
Because everybody's lazy.
But I look at it and I think, wow, I think they're going really far into trying to do as much practical. Like, I saw some that clearly was like a person. It looked like in a suit, like the way he was moving. Unless it's CGI, it looked like an actor in like some kind of costume, because like it was where he looked like he was like jumping from one ledge to another.
Yeah. I think that was CG.
Okay, well, whatevs. I mean, you can only do so much with a puppet, and I think they're doing as much as they possibly can with puppets. So,
yeah, it looks like they're being pretty faithful to the original movie. So
yeah. Now, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't in the movie? I can't remember. Jen. He and the girl were like the only two of their kind left. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Was that them we saw in there, or was that just two that looked a lot like them?
It looked a lot like them. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense,
right? Because they never
them.
met, and he thought he was the last, and she thought she was the last.
Right.
So, I mean, honestly, I'm probably the most interested in this than anything else we're going to be talking about in terms of trailer talk.
Well, thanks for tuning in. Catch us next time.
So, next, you want to talk about Rambo Last Blood.
Sure, go ahead.
Comes out September 20th. You know, I've seen all the Rambos. It's been a while, but this, to me, has a Home Alone vibe to it. You know, he's setting up all these traps, and I'm not saying that's bad or anything or lame, but it's just the first thing I thought of when I saw him setting all these traps and you seeing guys getting taken out by a rake on a spring-loaded gizmo. It just reminds me of a more violent Home Alone.
More violent?
Yeah, because you're actually seeing guys get stuck in the face with a rake that's been sharpened.
I saw that in Home Alone.
Yeah, no, you didn't. Okay. But real talk, I mean, the first time I saw the trailer, it was just like, okay, you know, this might be okay. The second time, I'm actually a little more interested in it. Like,
have you watched all the Rambo movies?
Yes, it's been a while, though. Have you?
No.
Oh.
I have seen First Blood.
Yeah, it's kind of like where the first one was more of a drama, and really then from 2 on,
it was good. I heard
actioned them.
I've heard that the first one was the best one, and then they just get ridiculous after that.
Yeah, I mean, they just turn into action movies, for better or worse. It might be all right. I don't know. I mean, I think it's good that he's finally going to hang up, you know, after this one. Like, it's not like he's, I hope, at least trying to see if this rekindles some interest in it.
Well, how many other franchises does he have that he can go back to after this?
Well, you know, I think they did it smart with Rocky. He did his last Rocky movie, and now they're doing, even though I didn't see them, I hear they're good, the Creed movies, which is where now he's taken on the role as mentor, or, you know, what Mickey was to him. And I think that's kind of a cool way to do it, because he's still Rocky, he's still the character, but he's not fighting anymore. He's training. I think that's the way to do it. I don't want them to necessarily do it for this, like where he's, you know, goes training new recruits or something, and I don't know, or something, but it might be all right. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be phenomenal, but
it looks kind of interesting. I don't know. It just seems like so ridiculous. How is this one guy going to fight off an army every time?
He's the best, man.
But let's say after this they made a Demolition Man 2. Would you be interested in that?
No, because he's already in the future. The whole gimmick of Demolition Man, he's out of his own time. You can't. It's like Austin Powers. It was funny the first time, but once they kind of live there for 10, 20 years, it's like you should be used to it somewhat by now,
So what if he is still from that future, but he then comes back to the past before he got frozen?
So there's like two of him?
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't know what else he could do after this. That seems to be his thing, though. I mean, he did the Expendable movies, and that kind of reignited.
See, yeah, I think I only saw the first two. I don't quite remember. I remember the first one's a little on the low budget side, but
I didn't see the third one, but I did see the first two, and I enjoyed them both.
Okay.
I thought they're all right. They're cheesy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're trying to go for gold there, though.
They went
know
into it knowing it was
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Throwback to the 80s and 90s action movies, that's fine. It's, as long as they're not trying to be something they're not. What do we got next? I think it's Terminator Dark Fate, which comes out November 1st.
Are you completely caught up on the Terminator series?
Actually, yes, I am.
What'd you think of the last one?
Oh, my God, that was terrible.
Yeah?
That
Why?
Was because, okay, here's the thing. These movies really should have stopped. I mean, I guess the third one was all right. Me and you have talked about this before. We both like the third one better maybe than most people. To me, when they were doing the first three Terminators, it was like always about someone or a Terminator's coming to the past, our present, to do something. And they always reference this big war that's going to happen. I was like, I'm sick of seeing the Terminators come back. I want to see this big war. And lo and behold, they finally do that with Terminator Salvation.
The McG one? That wasn't really showing the war, though.
The fourth one, Salvation?
Yeah.
How do you figure?
It wasn't really showing the war. Like, there weren't battles and stuff.
I guess not, but I never took it as like a war, like here's 1 million humans on this side, 1 million robots. It's more like guerrilla warfare where, the humans are trying to stop the, assembly lines that are making these things and just trying little things like that, which is what they were. They had to, break into places to get like guns and ammunition and explosives and whatever, food, water, I don't know how you think it's not showing the war. It's just, But anyway.
The only thing I really remember is C.G. Arnold playing cat and mouse at the end with, what's-his-face?
Christian Bale, yeah. So, that movie, even that one, when I first saw that one, I didn't like it. Then I watched it again a couple years later or something. It was the, special extended cut. I liked it a little better. Not saying, it was great or anything. But wow, what was the last one called? Genesis? That one was really bad. It's just now they're trying so hard to...
Why was Genesis bad, though?
Because they're trying to go into the events of the first and second film to a degree. Mostly the first, I think, in that one. And trying to, they're trying to do the Back to the Future 2 thing. And it just doesn't work. Did you see it?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't say anything.
Looking at the trailer for this new one doesn't make sense to me because it's always been going after John Connor.
Yeah, John Connor is gone. From what I hear, he's terminated pretty early on. And, so now you have Sarah Connor being John Connor, but then it looks like she's already taken a back seat to this other Terminator, which it looks like, they already having her take a back seat to her own movie. And yeah, like you said, it was always about John Connor, and then John Connor's finally killed. It's just like, what? I don't know.
Now, they're still traveling back in time to go kill somebody?
What I heard was that you're going to find out in Terminator 2, when Arnold and the T-1000 got sent back, you find out there's at least 20 other Terminators that also got sent back to make sure the job was done, and that Sarah Connor has been slowly eliminating these other Terminators, and one of them got John Connor. So now she is kind of the future resistance leader.
So is it ignoring the other two movies then, or what?
Yes. From my understanding, this totally wipes 3, 4, and 5 out. And so basically the only two that exist is 1 and 2. This is supposedly the new 3. Yeah. To me, they should have stopped. To me, trying to push that James Cameron is back is not doing anything for me. This looks like a big feminist push, as all these movies are now. Everything's got to be about how much better women are than men. Even Arnold, the lead guy, he was in the trailer for 3 seconds worth.
That was the only part of the trailer I liked. I was like, oh, he looks cool with a beard.
I don't know. I think they should have stopped a long time ago.
It looks like a cartoon. The CG looks so bad. The new bad Terminator, I guess, he looks like an Hispanic guy just running around.
Yeah.
He looks horrible. The actor he just looks like a guy.
Well, I can understand, because it looks like a lot of it takes place in either Mexico or New Mexico, or perhaps Texas. I guess that would fit for the location, not to be racist, but he could blend in better, I suppose, in that area.
That has nothing to do with anything. That's just like, he just looks like a guy, though. Like,
no, he doesn't, like, okay, the guy...
Arnold had a presence.
And so did, Patrick, dang it, what's his last name? The T-1000.
Yeah.
He's not nearly as big as Arnold, but he's still menacing looking. Like, he still was, like, kind of scary. He's thin and stuff, but he was still kind of... Robert Patrick.
Robert Patrick, yep. Even the girl in the third one, I thought, she had a thing about her.
Yeah.
This looks like just a guy you would see walking around in a department store or something,
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look like...
No,
and the way the CG looks on him when he's reforming and stuff, it just looks like he's standing there.
Well, they're trying to always up the ante. So, the first one, it was a robot body with skin on it. Okay, the second one, there's that plus a liquid Terminator. The third one, it's basically what this is already, except there's she was a robot body, but she had the liquid metal on her, but she also had where her arms could turn to like a blowtorch or a laser gun or something like that. The fourth one, he was more like a cyborg. He was actually... He was a metal skeleton, but he actually had, like, organs, like a heart and lungs and crap. And the fifth one, it was almost like he was a living machine more than even... I don't know how they explained it in that one. He didn't have organs, per se, but it was like he was more like alive, I guess. And in this one, he's basically the same as the third Terminator, the girl Terminator, except he can separate completely from the skeleton and become two. I guess that's kind of new, but I don't know. Which it makes me wonder. So if in the movie if they were able to kill the skeleton one, can the other one function without him? Do they need each other? Because I'm assuming they keep going back to each other.
What year did the second one come out? 1991.
I believe so.
The special effects from 1991 look way better than the special effects from 2019.
It's like, I don't know if I would go that far. I mean, some of the animation does look
like
better.
A video game.
If you look, okay, like if you remember the floor scene from Terminator 2 where he's rising up from the or it's a sane asylum, checkered floor. I mean, it looks good, but I mean, it's starting to show its age a little bit. I'm not downing it by any means. It just... I think the animation does look better, but the thing that mostly takes me off is there has to be this big scene, like you see where like they're flying the airplanes and he's literally like holding on to the airplane. He jumps to the next airplane because it crashes into the other one. There's got to be this big fiasco. Huge thing has to happen in all these movies now, and they don't really need to do that. Like Terminator 2, the biggest thing that happened was probably the semi-truck scene, right? Maybe. Where they're in that little pickup truck and the T-1000's in the big semi-truck and he jumps. I thought it was sweet. He jumps out. He has them take the wheel. He jumps literally to the truck bed onto the hood of the semi-truck and literally just points the gun like 2 inches away from his face and starts blasting them. But Arnold actually did that too. Little side note.
He really blasted somebody in the face?
Yeah, he really did.
Cool. Anyway, I don't know. I've checked out a Terminator.
I agree. The
McG one killed it for me. I don't really care. Yeah, the Salvation.
Why you calling it McG? What is
That's the director.
Oh, I didn't know what you're referencing. Okay.
Yeah, director. When your director goes by a letter, then you're probably...
It sounds like something McDonald's, like the McG. I didn't know.
It was the McDonald's version of Terminator.
Yeah. All right, so next we have some news about Robert Pattinson as Batman in The Batman, coming out June 25th of 2021.
I don't care. I see a lot of people freaking out. I don't care. So?
Okay, so it's like part of me is like, man, he doesn't seem like he'd be a good Batman, but I remember when I first heard Heath Ledger was going to be Joker, I didn't think he could pull that off. I at that time, I saw Heath Ledger as this pretty boy that, was in little 10 Things I Hate About You or whatever he was in.
Knight's Tale.
Okay, yeah, he was in that.
Yeah, I don't really care. Like, people want to throw a fit every time somebody gets casted as anybody. They threw a fit when Michael Keaton got casted as
True. He was more, thought of as a comedian. Well, he was so thin. That's the one thing. I mean, maybe he'll bulk up a little bit.
I think he should bulk up a little bit. I'm happy for the guy because I think he had a sour time after he did all that Twilight stuff.
Okay.
At least from what I've heard. I don't really pay attention to it.
Okay, here's my question, though. So you got, with the DC universe, which is pretty much a mess, but you got You know, you had Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Justice League, all that stuff. I might have missed one there. Shazam. So now Ben Affleck is out as Batman, and now you're doing a
Is he out, or is this a prequel Batman? I assume it's a prequel.
I heard he's
younger.
out. I heard he's out. But
I've heard that he's back in. I don't know. Warner Brothers doesn't know what they're doing.
Oh, agreed. But here's what I want to know. So the Joker movie that's going to be coming out here, is it this
Which
year?
has nothing to do with any other Joker movie.
Right. It looks like it's its own thing. So what I'm wanting to know is, are they trying to do like two movie universes? One where it's more outlandish sci-fi comic booky, and one that's more grounded? Because the Joker movie looks as realistic as it could possibly be. He's just, you know, I don't know if he even would say a crime lord, but he's just some guy. I mean,
yeah, it looks like a 70s crime movie.
Right, which I think is great. That's why I love the Dark Knight so much. Batman works best, to me, in a more realistic setting. And I'm wondering if this Joker movie does well. Obviously, people are going to be saying, like, oh, where's Batman? Like, we want to see Batman versus this version of Joker. Is Robert Pattinson going to be in that, or is he going to be joining Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Shazam, Green Lantern, or whoever else in the more comic booky version?
Or Groot.
Shut up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I didn't see Shazam. I heard it did pretty well.
Did you hear anything about the Swamp Thing TV show?
Yeah, I heard that people were signing up for whatever, you know, subscription for that.
I didn't even know there was a DC.
I did hear, yeah, they were going to do it, and then I heard it's already canceled. And people are furious because they signed up just to see this show, and now it's already canceled.
Well, I think the thing is, it's not so much that the show is being canceled as it is the whole streaming service itself is being reevaluated. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. I mean, I remember I seen Swamp Thing, the movie, and there was a TV show, I think, in the early 90s, because I remember catching it.
I remember watching it all the time. I like the Swamp Thing movies, as cheesy as they are.
The second one was, I remember, more outlandish, but
it's funny. I didn't know that DC had a streaming service, and then why? Why would they have?
Everyone's got to have a streaming service.
It's like $8 a month for what? What do they have? Cartoons?
Yeah, a lot of cartoons, and I guess they're movies.
It's not like, it seems like it should be a package involved with one of the other services. Like, sign up for Hulu and you also get the DC package, which has this stuff. Because how much content could they possibly have?
I don't know, dude, but I'm actually starting to come around to the Disney Plus.
Why?
Because they have almost everything. They have, obviously, the MCU. They have Pixar. They have Lucasfilm. They have Star Wars. They have all the classic Disney stuff. And they're going to have 20th Century Fox. I guess they just purchased them or just had a deal with them or something. So everything...
It's part of the whole Fox deal, yeah.
Yeah, so Disney Plus is going to have a lot of content.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, and it's cheaper. It's cheaper than Netflix.
How much?
I think it's $7.
Really?
Yeah. So, like, I was telling Brittany, like, honestly, that might be the way to go.
Well, they're going to put up some competition for the other few that are out there.
Yeah, because, like, Prime, it's like I like Prime, but, like, what's kind of crappy about it is you'll go and you'll see a movie and it's not available. You have to either buy it or it's just not available at all. Where at least everything on there would be watchable.
I'll look into it. I know they ended up taking the Marvel Netflix shows back. Like, they're all canceled now, so they can do stuff with them on the Disney streaming service. Or even put them in movies, I guess, now. I don't know. They haven't really said what the plan is, as far as I know.
I never got into any of the shows for Marvel or DC, but anyway, that's about it for that. And the last thing on our list is you saw the new Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Yes, Godzilla. I was looking forward to this movie more than any other movie for this year. So excited to go see it. I saw it last weekend, opening weekend. I saw it on a Sunday.
What row did you sit in?
Towards the back. So anyway, yeah. Oh my gosh, I was depressed all that night because of how awful it was. It was seriously a horrible, horrible, horrible movie. And what I don't get is, if you go on Rotten Tomatoes right now and look, the audience score is like 80%, and the critic score is like 30%, which is right. It's weird to me when there's such an offset between the two, because sometimes critics are stupid and the audience is right.
Yeah.
In this case, it's the other way around. It was so bad. I heard, like, before the movie came out, like, the early screenings, people were saying, oh, you know, they learned from their mistakes. The early one, the first one from 2014, where, you know, one of the big problems with that one that people had is...
Not enough Godzilla.
Yeah, there wasn't enough Godzilla, and they didn't really show the fights as much. So, I heard that they had fixed that. After watching Kong, I figure, okay, well, Kong was pretty much, you know, it was dumb, but at least it was entertainingly dumb, and they had plenty of monster stuff in it. Mm-hmm. They lied. Anybody that tells you there's more Godzilla in this one is a liar. The movie just drags and drags and drags. There's no Godzilla for a long time. Then they start to show him, but again, it's just like a clip of him, then cut into something stupid the stupid humans are doing. And then they'll start to show the monsters fight, and then they'll cut to what the humans are doing, and then show them kind of maybe in the background.
Yeah, that's what I remember about the last one. I remember where they're showing news footage where people are watching TV, and you're seeing Godzilla fight.
I'm not totally on board with the design of this new Godzilla. He's too thick still.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's kind of chunky.
And
his feet are kind of small looking. Like, I remember the close-up where they showed his foot come down, and for his size, it just looks like he has really small feet. Like, they don't look like they can support something that tall and wide.
They're like stumps.
Kind of, yeah. Almost like elephant feet.
But, you know, the CG I wasn't super impressed with either. Every time there was a fight, it'd be at night, in the rain, in the dark.
Yeah, well, that helps.
And they kept cutting away, and the human characters were just the most... I didn't care about one of them. It was so terrible. You know, there's ways to make Godzilla movies interesting. You know, there's always the human story and the monster story, and a lot of times they're intertwined. In this one, there was a MacGuffin. Basically, this device that could kind of control the monsters, and one character had it, and the monster kept trying to get her because he had it. It was so stupid.
One thing I thought about the last Godzilla movie was I didn't think they did enough to show his size. Like, sometimes when they would just show him fighting something, you didn't get a real good sense of how big they were. Like,
they did that. They did that. Okay. No. They did that better.
Like, you need to see.
One.
Oh, you think so? Oh, yeah. See, I didn't think they did it well enough.
They didn't really do anything like because in the first one, you know, you'd have those camera angles where it was like street level view, looking up at Godzilla and stuff.
Yeah,
which is like, you get a real.
Yeah, you need to see people or cars or buildings. Something that gives you reference.
There was maybe one scene where there was a building involved.
Okay.
There was no. Something that's classic in a Godzilla movie is seeing a monster rampage through a city.
Yeah.
There's none of that.
If they did it, would you just say that's cliche or it's...
No, it needs to be in there. That's part of the fun of those movies. The characters were teleporting all over the place. There was no sense of time. Where did he go from the end of the last... I remember he was like laying on the ground and then he gets up and people are cheering him. Like, people seemed like they were afraid of him or annoyed that he was like trashing the city, but then he gets up and he starts going into the water. I remember then people like clapping and cheering. I was like, wait, what? You still had the character, the Ken Watanabe in there, who was like basically worshipping Godzilla, saying, no, he's our protector and stuff. Like, where are you getting that information from?
Yeah, I saw you can tell it's supposed to be the big line, you know, what are we supposed to treat him like? He's our pet? No, he's not the pet. We're his pets. Like,
it's ridiculous. And the whole thing is like, the movie is about how the planet's too crowded and they need the monsters to destroy people because people are destroying the Earth, and it's ridiculous.
Okay. Where have these things been all this time? Like,
well, every time
I saw something where one of them was frozen in ice. Gamora, right? Is that the dragon, three-headed dragon? Ghidorah, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not up on Godzilla like you.
Every time they show the humans in this, it's just they're literally there just to give tons of exposition that there's no possible way they could actually know any of this stuff.
Gotcha.
It was so disappointing.
Yeah, Godzilla, you know, it's tricky because in some of those movies I know he was basically just the villain. He came in and trashed the cities and it was trying to protect themselves. And then some of them, there's other monsters and he's more like our protector. Mm-hmm. You know, and I understand, I think, right, there's almost like two series of Godzilla movies. Like, some of them, like, were done by a certain guy or a certain production crew, right? And some of them by another. They're like, so there's almost like the split amongst Godzilla fans.
Think of it as like just two different time periods. There's the 60s through the 70s and a little bit of the 80s, and then there's the ones in the 90s and beyond. Okay. That's the two time periods they split them up into.
Gotcha.
So it's always been Toho. It's been the same production company with a couple American ones in there now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's dumb.
Yeah, that American Godzilla is awesome.
They had their own ship, like Shield, like one of their helicopter things flying around the whole time, a giant airplane, and for some reason, like, Monarch is the company that's like investigating all these monsters and stuff. So it's a scientific group, right? Mm-hmm. Why do they have nukes? They have nukes in this movie. And they introduce, there's a weapon. It's really weird because you can tell that the people who wrote the story went back and watched a lot of Godzilla movies.
Okay.
Yet they still managed to make it crappy. There's so many references in it to other things from other Godzilla movies.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. Like in the first Godzilla movie, they defeat Godzilla by hitting him with a weapon called the Oxygen Destroyer.
Okay.
They bring it back in this one. They have the Oxygen Destroyer go off, and they're like, oh, it'll destroy all life within 2 miles, and they're launching it into the ocean. Aren't you worried that might, like, kill a lot of people, too? Like, if you wipe out all the life in this part of the ocean, what are the ramifications of it? They just start launching stuff.
Yeah.
And when you find out that they did it, like, there was no discussion about should we do this or not. Just the military shows up on the scientist's screen and says, hey, we already launched this. You better get out of there.
As much as people diss on Independence Day, at least there was that discussion in that movie about they were going to shoot a nuke at it, remember? And there was, like, the big discussion about, no, you're going to wipe them out and us.
No, it's so weird. The movie was horrible. I'll do, like, maybe a video on it at some point or something. Give more detailed thoughts, but I'm so disappointed. I don't even care about Godzilla versus King Kong.
Yeah, I don't know. I was more of a King Kong kid. I watched a little bit of Godzilla, but never got into him nearly as much.
Yep, colored me sad.
There is an inexorable force in the cosmos where time and space converge. A place beyond man's vision, but not his reach. It is the most mysterious and awesome point in the universe, where the here and now may be forever. The Black Hole. A journey that begins where everything ends.
Okay, up next, our main topic, The Black Hole from 1979. Tell us about it, Josh.
All right. It was directed by Gary Nelson, and it was made on a budget of $20 million and made a little over $35 million back. It has a 43% critical score and 45% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. It stars Maximilian Schell, Anthony Perkins, Robert Forster, Joseph Bottoms, Yvette, I can never say her last name, it's French, Mienks, sure, and Ernest Borgnine. The original working title was called Space Probe 1. This was Disney's first PG-rated film. The events take place in the year 2130. Roddy McDowall and Slim Pickens were not credited for their voice work as the two robots. In the original script, the entire film was going to be set in a weightless environment. However, this was scrapped after difficulties doing the effect. The trailer spoils the Anthony Perkins death scene. Alan Dean Foster, who wrote the novelization, was unhappy and gave a few list of changes. Vincent was supposed to have more expressive eyes, but the effect didn't work properly, so it was abandoned. Reinhardt's robot was already named Maximilian before Maximilian Schell was chosen for the role. It is credited for having the first digitally recorded soundtrack. Some of the leftover robot costumes were used for test footage of Tron. A poster for this movie can be seen in Tron Legacy. STAR stands for Special Troops Arms Regiment. This film and Star Trek the Motion Picture were the last Hollywood movies to have an overture. There are 550 visual effects shots and 150 matte paintings. Almost all the lines were re-recorded in post. Disney was so concerned about the special effects they called Peter Ellenshaw out of a 10-year retirement. He is known for movies like Treasure Island, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, The Love Bug, Ode Yeller, Pollyanna, Swiss Family Robinson, The Absent-Minded Professor, Mary Poppins, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Dick Tracy, and many others. And this film was released on December 18th in the UK, December 21st in the US, and Star Trek the Motion Picture, which I'm sure we'll have many comparisons to, came out December 7th, 1979.
All right.
Righto.
So you picked this movie out. What made you want us to do this?
I had just been looking up a lot of old random sci-fi movies, and I had seen clips of this movie before and just finally got interested enough to see what it was all about.
So it was your first time viewing it?
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. I think when you told me about it, you're saying it's kind of like the Disney version of Star Wars, which I think was a little...
Did I say that?
I think so. Somebody said that.
I don't know if I said that. Looking at it now, I mean, there's some elements of, like, I mean, it reminded me a little bit of Alien, a lot of Star Trek the Motion Picture and 2001 A Space Odyssey, but I can see elements of Sunshine, Event Horizon, even 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Well, Sunshine and Event Horizon came way after.
No, I'm saying just similarities. Yeah, I'm not saying obviously they copied off of that. Yeah, it's the opposite way around, but I'm saying there's just similarities.
It reminded me most of Forbidden Planet, and also, and I think this one came out after, but Galaxy of Terror.
Okay.
And then, yeah, there's a little bit... what was that one, the Christopher Nolan movie about space?
Oh, Inception? No. Yes, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. I can't remember the name.
Anne Hathaway. Dang it. I know what you're talking about, yes.
But it reminded me of that, too.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, a lot of these movies mostly probably have a 2001 Space Odyssey influence. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, there's certain movies where they got to do this thing where they need you, the audience, to understand how important something is or how dangerous something is or just how unusual. So they have, your cast like constantly like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. I don't understand it. And there was a lot of that in the beginning about how dangerous the black hole was. Like everything was just so about like nonstop, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it, and it got a little like, okay, we get it. The black hole is really big and dangerous and scary and whatever.
Yeah. So, the movie starts off with an exploration ship. Is it?
I don't know if they ever quite say what they're doing.
Some kind of ship floating through space, and they happen to catch a signal from another ship that's very close to...
Or where they're searching for...
I don't think they were searching for it. I think they found a distress signal or something. Okay. They noticed that there's another ship over by this black hole. Mm-hmm. And they're like, that shouldn't be there. It's way too close. Let's go check it out. Maybe they need help.
Yeah.
And it turns out that it's a ship that went missing
X number of years ago. And
happened to have, it was a scientific ship, and it happened to have one of the crew members' fathers on it.
The female lead, I forget both her real name. Oh, no, she's the one I couldn't...
Right?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was, her father was on this ship. So she obviously has a special interest in finding out what happened.
So they're trying to check it out, see what happens. Eventually the lights come on, and they get invited in. It's just this one guy there now.
Well,
all the crew is gone.
Hold on, let's backtrack just a little bit. They make a point to say, how not even light can escape the pull of the black hole, but this ship is perfectly anchored right there.
It happens to, it's creating its own gravity somehow, right?
Well, yeah, because...
There's a pocket of gravity.
Well... I think they're more pushing that Reinhardt has figured out a way, because they make a point to say there's gravity on that ship when they docked with it. There's gravity there, and that it's holding this position. I don't think it's supposed to be an anomaly. I think it's supposed to be something that he figured out.
Okay,
but continue.
So they get on there. They find just the Reinhardt guys there, and all the crew is gone. Basically, they've died, is what he tells them.
Yes,
and the ship is being run by his little army of robots.
Right. Yeah, he has his army of robots that do, upkeep to being soldiers. Some of them take care of I thought it was cool. They have a greenhouse to kind of explain how he has fresh air, how he has some vegetables and fruit and whatever else.
Yeah, there's different types of robots doing different tasks, and one of them, the one that's in charge of everybody else, that's called Maximilian, his robot.
Yes. Well, now, what did you think about the design of Maximilian?
It was a little weird.
I know it's going to sound really silly. I didn't like the lower half. He didn't really have feet. You notice, the upper half looked kind of cool and menacing, but then when you get to his feet, they're just these static little things. He doesn't even have feet. They're just little nubs that go down to nothing, and he never moves. He just floats around. I almost thought it would have been more interesting if he actually, as he stomped around, you hear this weight to him. It might have made it seem more menacing, heavy to hear his footsteps coming.
What I do think is interesting is they actually managed to kind of give him a little bit of a personality despite him never saying anything. Just the way he would turn and look at somebody and they would get scared, you know? I thought that was cool. But the other crew on the smaller ship, they had their own robot.
Yes, Vincent. And he's basically supposed to be like the R2-D2.
Voiced by Roddy McDowell,
yes. Which
I was surprised. I recognized the voice right away, and I was like, whoa, no way. I was surprised by the cast in this. I wasn't expecting to see Ernest Borgnine or what's his name, Anthony Perkins from Psycho.
Yep.
That was a bit of a shock to me. Vincent to me looked like he crawled out of a pinball machine. He looked like a bumper.
Yeah, I remember when that was one of the things when I first saw anything of this movie. I was like, man, the robots look so silly. Mostly Bob and Vincent. But you just kind of get over it. I mean,
and Bob is the same model or
type. I think it's almost like
except
iPods. He might be the fifth gen, and exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's also beat up, and you find out it's not that he's beat up because he's just been around longer. You find out he's beat up because he's beat up on by, what did they say? There was a particular robot that was like the lead robot, and then once Maximilian was created, he kind of became second place. I can't remember. He was all black, where all the other ones were all red. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about when they're shooting?
Yes. And I thought it was funny, like, obviously, and
like the stormtrooper looking robots.
Yeah, but they did this thing, like, instead of, like, twirling the gun around his, like, fingers, he does this thing where he goes, just like that. Did you see that? And then puts them away, like, as if that was supposed to be some fancy trick.
I didn't even understand that scene. There's a lot about this movie that
I think that was just a scene to show, like, wow, look at these laser effects and the little ball that moves around. Isn't this cool?
Okay, so with the special effects, the way that the movie opened up were with, like, computer grid lines, which was, I think, way ahead of its time, because this is the 70s.
Yes.
And you're opening up with basically computerized
Yeah,
screen.
I had that computerized, like, squares, checkerboard or whatever.
I thought that was pretty, like, ahead of its time and neat.
What'd you think of the music?
The music was one of my favorite parts of this movie.
Okay.
It was amazing. And as soon as I heard it, I got the feel that this is a James Bond movie.
Okay.
Particularly, I was thinking of the 60s versions, like Thunderball. Okay. And then I looked it up, and it was actually John Barry was the composer.
Did he do James Bond's, I guess?
He was the composer for 11 of the James Bond films between 1963 and 1987. He also performed the James Bond theme for the first film.
Okay. I thought the music had a nice eerie vibe, which is what you wanted, but it was so repetitive in that it was almost like a loop, and I thought it got a little too old. Like, I wish there was a little more
I loved it. I really think that the music was the best part of the movie.
I'm not criticizing it, I just think it was repetitive, that's all.
One of the things I thought was interesting that they mentioned right away is when they're talking about a black hole, one of the guys on the small crew says, I expect there to be a little red guy with horns and a pitchfork in there.
Yes. There's some foreshadowing.
Yeah, that too, but it seems like that comes up a lot with space movies, and especially when it's like black holes and stuff, like that the devil lives in them. Isn't that...
Okay, I've never heard that.
You've never...
No.
Like, isn't that Event Horizon? Didn't that happen in there?
I don't recall.
Like,
in fact, I don't know if I've ever seen Event Horizon completely.
Like demons were coming through the black hole or something like that, and then you have the video game series Doom, where they open up a portal in space and hell is unleashed.
Oh.
And then also...
Now, both those movies came after. Maybe is that based off of this?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
But it's weird that it keeps coming up. And then there's another one. I just saw an episode of Doctor Who where they were sitting at the edge of a black hole, and the devil was there too. It's so weird that keeps coming up. I wonder what it is about that causes that
news
theme.
To me, yeah. I had said earlier that this kind of reminded me of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Have you ever seen that?
It's been so long, but yeah, I have.
If you look at the actor, I actually thought it might have been him who played Captain Nemo. It's not, but they have a similar look, like the beard and everything.
I was just thinking about at the opening, they're having all these issues because as they get closer to the black hole to go check out this other ship, Vincent goes outside to repair something, and I was thinking, no, bye Vincent, he's dead at the beginning. That'd be funny, but they can't get a hold of Vincent. Like, they're trying to communicate with him. They have a communicator.
Yes, that came out. She has ESP, which I was like, wait, what?
The line is, Kate, get through to Vincent with your ESP, and I was just blown away by that.
That really came out of nowhere. And I was like, why does she... It's kind of like in Starship Troopers. Why can Doogie Howser he can, like, communicate to animals or, like, scare animals? Remember, like, he does it to, like, a ferret and the brain bug at the end. Like, it's just this one thing they establish early in the film or use it again toward the end.
At least with that, it was between two living organisms. Vincent's just a machine. How does ESP work like that? And and it's not like a thing that keeps coming up. It's just
literally
at
the beginning,
once at the end.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's pretty much it.
Right. Yeah, I did notice that and wondered about that. So, to me at least, I found a lot of similarities to different Star Trek.
Of course. Can you find a connection to Star Trek?
A connection to Star Trek, like an actor or something?
Yeah, actor or anything.
I didn't notice one offhand. Who do you got for me?
I don't know. I was hoping that you did.
Oh, no. But this reminded me of several different Star Treks. Did you pick up on any at all? Or
no, go give us your list.
Well, one of the most obvious ones might be just the similar look to this and Star Trek The Motion Picture. Kind of an easy one. But
We're talking about like how it would like
just the you know where the motion picture is a little more about the. I mean, there's kind of an enemy, but it's more about the unknown of V'ger and the vastness of it. And what you think I'm stretching?
No.
What? Give me a look. What's going on?
I didn't realize this when I watched it the first time.
Okay.
But after watching some analysis of it and kind of re-going over the original Star Trek movie, V'ger is a woman's part.
Oh?
The movie is about sex.
Okay.
If you pay attention to it. It's not very subtle. I don't know how I missed it.
All right. So, first of all, they use the blaster beam sound effect at least once or twice very early on, which was the sound of V'ger in it.
Okay.
There's definitely the notion of a man obsessed, which that reminds me of the original series episode, The Doomsday Machine, which you might even say is kind of like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which I also said this reminded me of, which is where Decker, which some people have also later said that it might be Decker from the motion picture's father. It's the one with the big funnel thing. Do you remember that? In the original series where he's obsessed because he's the only one that survived from his crew, and it's almost like Moby Dick in a little bit too. So there was that kind of reminded me of that. A little bit of Star Trek V. And it's kind of like where Reinhardt wants to go through the black hole because he believes it's like the next level of knowledge and experience and, you know, that kind of thing. And similar to the way Cybok in Star Trek V felt that, you know, if we can get to, was it Shakari or whatever, you know, I'll find the creator and he will give me ultimate knowledge.
And an army of rock monsters.
All that stuff. So there was just little things going on like that kind of somewhat reminded me of these things. It
definitely shared a lot of themes with other space-based sci-fi.
Right, and you know, some of it might have worked the other way around, where this movie influenced other TV shows or movies, but regardless, there's similar things going on. That was another thing. Yeah, ESP, that reminds me of Counselor Troy. I forgot that.
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I can see that. I liked some of the looks of it, like the spaceship, the big one that was close to the black hole, when they were coming up on it, like how dark it looked, and they had to actually use lights to light it up, otherwise you couldn't really see it. Yeah. And I thought, to me, that seemed pretty realistic if you're out in the void of space, that things might be pretty dark unless you're shining a light directly onto it.
Yeah. There's this new thing that you're seeing a lot of, I know they did this in Avengers, a lot of new sci-fi movies are doing this where used to, let's say in a movie, if you're going to have two people looking at a screen or a map or whatever, you got to show what they're looking at, the one guy's face, the other guy's face. And it's sometimes kind of hard to get the full reaction. He's got to keep cutting. Whereas if you're having two people talk, they'll have a camera on the one guy to show his reaction, a camera on the other guy. They did this thing now in like Avengers where they have these screens that are like glass. They're transparent and the graphics go on them. So literally we're still looking at each other with this graphic in between us. And they did that in this movie at the beginning, where they're looking at a model of different ship designs trying to figure out what the ship is, and it's like that, where it's a holographic projection between the two, so you can see both actors talking. And I just thought that was interesting, because it seems like that was, I thought, a more fairly new technique to try to get that. I don't think I've ever seen a movie this old that has done that.
Mm-hmm. There was a funny line about what it costs the taxpayers.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, great, way off in the future, we're still going to be paying taxes.
Yeah, they did mention that a few times. It seems like that should have been more about the crew. But yeah, they made a point about the taxpayers. What did you think about the gravity or zero gravity effects at the very beginning?
They weren't that great.
Really?
No.
That's funny, because I was actually thinking, wow, I'm pretty impressed for how old this movie is, how well it was done. I didn't see wires. When I was looking up trivia and things, a lot of people were saying they saw wires. I looked, I didn't see any wires. The only wire I saw was the one, or, well, maybe not even a wire. It was like when Vincent uses the cable, when he first goes out, he has a tether in case he was to fly away, which gets, cut. That's the only thing I saw, but then I realized, oh, that's supposed to be his tether. You're supposed to see that. I didn't notice any wires, so I thought it was pretty impressive. What about it didn't impress you?
It just looked like they were on wires to me. I didn't catch the wires, but I did see where other people were saying that they saw the wires.
Okay, very well.
They get onto the big ship, and we meet Hans. He looks kind of like a werewolf. I thought, anyway. He looked like he was in mid-transformation.
Well, they made this interesting point that he says, they say, like, oh, you've been out here for 20 years. And he says, well, 20 Earth years. And basically that time is passing differently. But I also think it was kind of interesting that, you look at Einstein, and they were talking about how, like, Einstein was a genius, but he also kind of lost some human touches. I heard he didn't shower every day. He wasn't good at talking to people, and basically because he was probably barricaded himself in his office or his workshop or whatever, working on ideals and equations, that he kind of lost touch of little normal things. And I can kind of see that. At this point, he's completely alone. He's surrounded by essentially robots. And I could see where he kind of, maybe start losing a little bit of worrying about stuff as much.
Yeah.
It fit to me.
Yeah.
Like, who's he there to impress?
Actually, kind of, speaking of Star Trek connections, I actually thought Kate kind of looked like Dr. Pulaski a little bit.
I could see that, yeah. That actress was actually in the Time Machine as the female from the future. That
after she got there by going through a black hole, apparently.
Yeah. I think the time traveler's never mentioned by name in that movie, the first one.
Well, there you go. We have our connection.
Yeah.
We put two universes together here.
Yeah. Did you notice the way the robots, when they first get in the ship, like they're in this like lobby area, and the robots have this very exaggerated robot walk of, there's, I could have done without that. They were really trying to emphasize that these are robots, and it just looked a little goofy. Oh, well, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, the story is kind of interesting. Norman Bates falls in love with Hans.
I don't think it was that. I just think it was that he could relate to him the most. I think he was the most different guy of his crew. And
everybody
I think
else on that crew they're a little bit wary of Hans. Where's the rest of the crew? What happened to them? Why are they all gone? He's still here.
Yeah. There have been other movies that have done this before where one of the guys, the most oddball guy of the crew, kind of has a respect for the villain more than anyone else, but in the end he realizes, although, and they did this weird thing where, who was the villain? At some points you think it's Hans, Dr. Reinhardt, but at some points you think it's Maximilian because he says, protect me from Maximilian. Like, almost like you wonder if Maximilian was pulling his strings. You think, he's the robot.
That was something that was pretty interesting.
And then they didn't do well. They kind of did. It's kind of a little strange. We'll get to there when we get to that. But it made you think like, oh, there's going to be this big reveal that he is actually the slave to Maximilian.
So there's little things as they're trying to figure out what's going on, what happened to the old crew, while the guy from Psycho is hanging out with the mad scientist. They notice that there's a robot that has a limp. And that the other robots, some of them are having a funeral for another robot.
Right.
None of that really rings true to artificial life for them.
Right. And that's the thing. So, spoiler alert, you find out that Dr. Reinhardt has basically killed and or enslaved the crew. Yeah. And I think we're like, soldiers are just soldier robots. But the others that have like that dome kind of, in capes, they're actually humans, or I guess you might say cyborgs.
They're basically zombies now.
Yeah, exactly. But what I found funny is how much of their humanity is still intact, because they're performing this funeral, and then when Dr. Reinhardt gets in trouble, he asks them to help, and they don't. They obey all his other orders because they can't control it, but then when he orders them to help him, they don't. They let him essentially, or try to let him die there. So I was like, if they had that willpower, why didn't they do something earlier? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I thought it looked cool when they finally had the reveal. And who was it? Ernest Borgnine pulled the...
Anthony Perkins actually did that.
Okay, pulled the dome off of the face, basically, to reveal that that's a person in there.
Yeah.
They actually looked pretty cool, the makeup.
Yeah, I mean, they only showed it for that split second. I thought they were going to cut to it again, but they didn't. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it was a cool look. There was nothing really robotic about it, so I was like trying to figure out, so like, how are they robot zombies? Like, or is it something he implanted in the head that made them...
Yeah, maybe there's stuff inside of their body as well.
Yeah. At least in their brain. I would assume they're mostly controlled by, in the brain where they are his slaves, essentially.
So what is Hans's motivation? He wants to study this black hole and he wants to be the first to go through it, right?
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, it's, like I said, he's Cybok. He believes ultimate knowledge. He nothing else but to be...
And he is basically a genius.
He is a genius. He figured out how to hold the ship there without he's also figured out some kind of, he said, like zigzag type of motion that will keep them intact. And he also, but then he does little things that clearly, like it's like he's not all bad. Like he wanted Anthony Perkins to take 20 years worth of data that would back to Earth to help them. So it's like,
he's like a madman, but he's not
totally
evil.
Gone. Yeah. Or at least it's like he feels like the ends justify the means. Like, it was worth it. He had to have complete control of the ship and the crew in order to get the discoveries that he did. So he, and I don't know, did he start killing them and then enslave them? As some of them got injured, did he enslave them? And the rest of them, I don't know. Then, they're like, that's unethical. How could you? And then he killed them. I don't know how they all became that, but
they leave a lot to be wondered about.
Yes, there is. He's not super evil. I mean, he was going to let them go and give them gifts to give to Earth, like all this knowledge, like I said. But then when she's trying to tell Anthony Perkins, like, hey, we got to get out of here, these robots are actually people, then he like does this thing where he shuts the door on them almost to trap them. So I don't know why he did that. Like there was nothing they could really do to stop him.
Interstellar, by the way, is that
Interstellar?
That was driving me crazy.
Okay. But yeah, there's some weird things like that.
Oh, we meet Bob, who's the hick version of
Vincent. Little
so
droid. But since
Slim Pickens,
since he had a different name, and it was, what did I say? It was biosanitation.
I don't know. So Slim Pickens is the voice. He's like a rodeo performer. He's a cowboy, and he's got like this definitely. Like, you can hear the draw in his voice.
Yeah, I think they even said he was, like, manufactured, designed in Texas.
Yeah, so there you go.
Oklahoma,
and it was funny, like, such a contrast to Vincent, who,
the
Roddy McDowell,
English accent,
is kind of funny. And he was the rundown one. Like, he had been mistreated. All the other robots were picking on him.
Exactly.
They were pickings on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at the end, he fights back, and, the evil robot. It was interesting the way they set that up, how they almost made Maximilian, like we're saying earlier, like maybe he was the true villain. And it was interesting that he was red. Did he also have horns?
He did not have horns, but he was red. Mm-hmm. When we get to the end, I have some ideas about that.
The designs inside of the ship reminded me of, like, classic sci-fi, like 1950s style sci-fi with, like, the triangular hallways and trapezoid doors and... Like, everything was a bit of an off-white scheme.
I thought they did a great job making the ships seem vast.
They did.
And I thought the like, not a train, but the little car that you would drive from one side of the ship to another was, it makes sense. Like, a ship that big, that you'd have to use something like that to get around.
The interesting part of the design is, you have all, like, this space, like, futuristic, design, and everything looks that way. And then when you get into the dining room where Hans is hanging out, it's like you just walked into somebody's bachelor pad and there's chandeliers.
Well, okay, that is also where it kind of reminds me of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, because again, Captain Nemo's ship, or submarine, I should say, was it the Nautilus, I believe?
Yeah.
It was like that, where it was just an industrial type thing, but when you see his quarters and his dining room, it was very nice. Yeah, there was like nice furnishings and, things like that. So like, again, I guess just because it reminded me so much of that, I could see why the captain would probably... Usually on a ship in these movies, the captain's quarters are the nicest.
It was just seemed so weird to me to see chandeliers hanging there and stuff, too.
Hey, why not?
It didn't feel spaceship to me, which made it interesting.
Well, yeah, but I mean, even, Star Trek has done a lot of that kind of stuff where certain
usually
rooms...
in the holodeck, though.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you looked at, like, Star Trek 5, they show, like, the observation room. I think it kind of doubled as like a cafeteria or whatever. It has like the old sailing ship wheel and like like kind of like nice classic
some decorations.
Yeah, decorations and stuff. I could see that. I thought it was kind of a cool look.
Did you catch the line where no man has dared to go?
I even wrote that down. Where is it? I will travel where no man has dared to go. I did most certainly catch that. Yes.
So that had to have been a reference.
They're
to Star
closest
Trek.
they can get to. Yeah. It's a good line,
The special effects were interesting when the ship was bombarded by meteorites.
Okay, that's where it got a little sloppy for me. I could have dug that, okay, they have to have, I guess, something happen to to finally have, a big event. But when the one meteor was literally rolling through...
Indiana Jones style, yeah.
Rolling through the corridor, or not
It just happened to be the perfect size to fit through there, too.
And it was... You think they'd be getting sucked out into space or something, because, like, it's got a big gaping hole now for this thing to... Yeah. It's like... I can appreciate the effects for the time, but it didn't. I feel like they should have had the meteors bombarding and tearing up the spaceship, not literally infiltrating the ship and tearing it up from the inside.
It also gave me a craving for cheese balls.
Yeah, they were perfectly sphere.
And then they had those crazy like laser shootouts with all the robots as they're trying to like get to their escape to get to their ship to escape. And one of the things I noticed is they're just having like normal conversations, and they didn't have any worry on their face, like there was no imminent danger.
Okay.
While they're in the middle of this shootout, it just seemed a little off to me.
Okay, Reinhardt and Anthony Perkins' character, the name I forget, Dr. Durant. Durant was going to stay behind and kind of be his pupil, which I think Reinhardt was happy because he had no real human equal. I think that's part of the reason why he kind of lost a bit of his humanity. Like, I don't think he saw the others as equals, but this guy was kind of like his equal. Maximilian kills him, and he seems upset about it. But I was thinking, like, okay, you essentially like killed and zombie or resuscitated your crew through robotics. I mean, I guess you couldn't you just kind of bring him back through robotics, but just give him the mind and will to be who he was again, sort of. I kind of thought that maybe could have been a...
Well, maybe it's too late once you've had a giant hole drilled through you. That was an interesting way for the robot to kill somebody. Basically became a blender.
Well, yeah, he showed off those blades in the beginning of
his hands turned into little whirly birds. Like,
well, propellers. He had extras. Yeah, like that was like that's the thing. Like, he never. I don't think he ever moves. He has two hands or arms. He has the two that always stay by his side, and then within them there's a second ones that go out and do the blades. It's like
propeller nipples.
Sure. He just didn't have enough range of motion. Like, his head turned one way, he floated around, and then just those extra arms came out. Yeah, he didn't do anything else.
And it looked really funny when he got sucked out of the ship, too, and kind of floated off.
Yeah, so eventually Vincent and, what's-his-face, Maximilian have a little showdown. Vincent, I think, does he drill into him or something? Or shoots into him? He does something into his chest, I guess.
Vincent has his own drill that he drills into...
And Max, at this point, the meteors are tearing out the ship, so there's big gaping holes. He flies off into the void of space / right into the black hole. Okay, great.
He goes to rule hell.
So, you have your characters by this point. They're trying to get back to their ship, but Ernest Borgnine has...
Yeah, he chickens out and crashes
totally, which was, I guess... All the best because they would have got shot down immediately. Yeah. So they decide to go.
He tries to escape. It doesn't work out. He just turns around, crashes right back into.
Well, no, They shot at him.
Yeah,
and he then crashed.
Yeah.
So there was a probe ship, I guess, that we forgot to mention got sent to black hole earlier and was able to come back out of it. Again, showing his genius that not only did it survive going through the black hole, but it was able to come right back out of it.
Yeah.
So they decided to go for that ship, only to discover it's been programmed to go into the black hole again, which didn't make sense to me because if it had already gone through to collect data, why was it programmed to go... Like, he was ready to take the whole ship in there. Why did the little ship need to... You know what I mean? Like, whatevs. But basically, there's no escape. Everyone goes through the black hole. Dr. Reinhardt has a giant plasma TV fall on him.
That was hilarious. That what a way to go. You're crushed by a television monitor.
But he's alive enough where he's trapped there.
For a minute anyway.
Yeah, until I guess essentially the TV and him got pulled out into space. But none of his minions will help. Finally have this trippy, I guess... Like, it's kind of like the 2001, but without being too much like the 2001.
Yeah, all of a sudden it becomes the tunnel scene.
Slow-mo, and like, given the sense that they're going round and around, and it's like a lot of close zooms and whatevs. So eventually we come out and we see...
Out of the acid trip.
Dr. Reinhardt floating in space, which at first I thought it was going to be his dead body. But you notice his hair and beard were much longer. And it made me wonder, he said something earlier in the film about, 20 years for Earth time, but 20, time passes differently here. So I was wondering, okay, since he was able to anchor himself there, it was almost like the time was ticking slower. Like he might have even been staying younger at that point. But once he was out of that holding ground and into normal time, I guess, did it catch up with him, or time was actually accelerating faster? I don't know. But it was almost like he aged more, like, because his hair was gray, long, and his beard was, I think, a little bit thicker and gray, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought was a nice little touch. And he ends up running into Maximilian. Then he's inside of Maximilian. Now, again, we talked about this. The upper half of Maximilian is slightly bigger, but then you go into the legs, which aren't really legs, and there's no feet. And like I said, even his arms are thin, so like I don't see how you could be inside of him. Also, I assume the inside of the shell would be full of mechanisms and processors and whatever, just things to make the robot work. So how really could Dr. Reinhardt fit into the shell of Maximilian?
I don't think the end of it was meant to be taken literally.
Well, I have a theory about this. I'm wondering if basically this was almost like punishment, like his own version of hell. The thing that he did to other people, which was basically turn them into robots, now he's essentially a robot, but he still has the presence of mind to realize that he's trapped. And it almost made me wonder, did Maximilian cut off a few limbs to make him fit in him? And now you have all the souls, basically, the poor souls that he killed or enslaved or whatever else there, which I don't know fully why they would be there. They seem like they would be innocent in that. But regardless, that's what it kind of made me wonder. What do you think?
I don't know. the end of the movie is so weird. They obviously gave like a hellish appearance to it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking he's dead. I don't think he survived. I think
you think that was the afterlife then? And
I think it was like,
Maximilian
we've seen other movies. You've heard of books and movies where some people theorize or think that, oh, maybe this person's version of hell will be different than that person's. And I'm wondering if that was it.
I don't know.
But then you have this, like, angel, I guess, this angelic figure going through this glass corridors into a bright light, which then, in turn, you see the ship come out, the escape pod or whatever you want to call it, and you see, like, the
escape
ship.
Podcast.
Okay. Yes. So anyway, they come out and you see this planet in the distance. So I'm thinking maybe they survived. They actually made it through the black hole.
Well, it seemed like it. They were looking around. They were floating through space.
And they found, they show a planet dead ahead, which you assume they're going to land there and well, at least just
find
survive.
the Statue of Liberty buried in the sand.
Sure. It's like, okay, like a lot of movies now, it's starting to come back now where movies are very open-ended, but for a while there, we had a lot of movies that were just cut and dry. This is what happened, X, Y, Z. But, now a lot of movies are kind of going back to this very, you got to think about it, or people talk about it.
I like movies where you think about it. However, with this one in particular, I would prefer the movie to at least be better.
Okay.
for me to think about.
Okay.
Do you have final thoughts? Is that where you're heading now?
Sure, we can do final thoughts.
Sure, go for it.
Okay. I thought the models were good. I thought they, like I said, did a good job making the ship feel very big. I think the effects held up pretty well. For me, at least, I think Disney clearly put some time, effort, and money into this. I think it was a missed opportunity that they didn't have, where the woman finds one of those minions now is her father, and she's torn where she's like, Dad, please, like when they were running for the escape pod, like where she's trying to drag him with her, and because she's like, like to her, like she wants to save her father. For all these years, she didn't know where he was, and she finds him. But I was thinking where like there's this final point where maybe like his leg breaks or something happens where she finally has to realize this isn't him. Like, yeah, it's his body, but her father's gone, and she has to like let him go. And it's like this, just gut-wrenching point where, like, she kind of is relieved because she thinks she found him and she thinks she can get him away, but then, like, realizes he's gone already. And I thought they should have tried to do that. She's, like, clinging to this empty shell. And I thought that would have been nice to do. Like I said already, success at a price for the Reinhardt. He kind of succeeds in everything. He is the smartest man essentially in the universe. He figures out to hold himself there. He figures out how to safely navigate, but he did some dirty deed in order to make it happen. Gets the punishment he deserved. I was really interested in what they were going to do with the black hole. Like, everything's leading up to that. You know, at some point, someone or something's going to go in there. It did get a little sloppy with the meteor scene, but I can let it go. Yeah, I think they did a good job, and there was a lot of care into it. It was not a typical Disney movie. It's almost weird that this is a Disney movie. It just feels very out of their norm. But,
well, I think back, especially like in the 70s, they were experimenting with like more stuff.
Yeah.
They wanted more live action. I know at some point they ended up buying Miramax and turning that into like their more adult movie. Like, so that way they can release stuff that was PG-13 or R.
Yeah, I think this should have been a PG-13 at least. This wasn't, to me, this, I guess
was
PG-13,
no PG-13, yeah.
Yeah, this definitely is still a little higher than a PG movie, but...
For me, it seemed... I think maybe it suffered the most maybe in editing. Some of the special effects were okay. Other ones were kind of cheesy. The robots looked a little goofy. Like, Vincent looked like he was there for kids.
Well, yeah, but again, remember they said they did want to have more expressive eyes with him, but the effect didn't work
Here's
properly.
the thing, though, too. I just looked up. So this came out in 79. Mm-hmm. They had a budget of $20 million. And it looked okay at best, right?
Yeah.
A year later, The Empire Strikes Back comes out. Mm-hmm. It looks pretty fantastic. I know it's been digitally touched up and stuff, but still, like,
at its core,
it looks really good. It had a budget of $18 million.
Okay.
So I feel like something went awry somewhere because it looks not as good.
I should have threw this in trivia. I actually forgot about it just now. I guess there was a special motion controlled camera or computer camera that was invented, I guess, for Star Wars that they were trying to rent. But I guess at this time, I think because they were filming Empire Strikes Back, they couldn't get a hold of it. Disney actually invented their own. And I guess it said that it was actually more advanced and better in certain things that it could do over the one that Lucasfilm or Skywalker or whatever THX made.
For me, I thought the music was terrific. The acting was okay. It reminded me a lot of other sci-fi things.
Yeah.
But for me, like the movie just kind of dragged.
Okay.
Editing, I think, really... There must have been parts of this movie that were cut out, and a lot of it was just them wandering the ship. I had a hard time paying attention.
See, I like that mystery aspect. I like that there were things that they were kind of strange to them.
The mystery aspect.
And a little bit more like, why is this happening?
But like the movie just kind of launched into the story immediately without building anything up. Like, oh, here we are. There's a spaceship. Let's go check it out.
Well, I mean, they give you all that usually, quickly, like, oh, it was lost, 20-some years ago. And
usually, like, a lot of... It feels like a movie is usually supposed to have, 15, 20, maybe a half an hour of, like, character development and stuff like that.
Okay.
While kind of slowly pushing the story before you launch into the story, like the second act,
Okay.
It didn't really have that. It just kind of, oh, here we go. We're on our adventure already. Okay. I don't know. I had a hard time getting into it. What did you give it?
I didn't grade it yet.
It's kind of interesting. I give it a D+.
Okay, and I was thinking C+. I almost wanted to give it somewhere in the B territory because I was able to appreciate themes at the end that I think, that they went all out, in my opinion. That's what makes him more intriguing. Is like he wasn't just this evil guy. Everything he was doing was trying to help humanity, and the fact that he was willing to give all this stuff back and take it to Earth, make sure it's put to good use, is that he was kind of, we talk about this like, oh, the mustache twirling villains. I don't think he was that. I think he put his priorities ahead of some morals a little too much, obviously, Yeah, and that's fine. It's just, for me, I feel like as it's trying to climb that hill or and get over that point so it can roll down and be a good movie and great, it just kind of like lost steam before it hit the top. Fair enough.
I don't know.
So you say D+, I say C+.
I don't necessarily think it was a bad movie. It was missing something to give it that oomph.
Well, I'm not saying it was incredible by any means, but I think there was enough good nuggets there to really, I can see what they were going for. Yeah, a few missed opportunities, a few things. I think had it come out maybe at least 5 years later, they would have had more technology to do some of the stuff they were trying to do. Yeah, and they probably would have had enough. Some more interesting things they could have worked with too. Possibly, maybe from a technological point of view, but I think by that point, the full-on sci-fi action type movies. This movie is literally like kind of the last of its kind for that time. It's coming back a little bit now.
It was kind of a throwback to, like I was saying, the 50s style of a sci-fi.
Well, yeah, but even that 70s sci-fi, has a very different feel to it than, your 80s stuff. I mean, Star Wars came out in 77, and that was really up in the action a lot more. But I don't, you didn't see like a lot of that kind of stuff, at least not mainstream stuff in the 80s and 90s. And like I said, it's like your Interstellars and Sunshine. It's coming back a little more now.
Yep. Another sci-fi movie that came out in 79, to me that also looked much better is Alien. That had basically an $11 million budget.
Okay.
So I don't know. I just feel like something was lost. Okay. And I don't know what it is. So.
I mean, it could have been, you think, because it was a Disney movie, because they didn't really know where it fit into their cartoons and other things, or you think that was it? Or
maybe there's something missing from the story that kept it from being there for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Like maybe you said maybe the thing with the father, had they gone and explored that a little further.
Yeah, I thought that would have been great, but
it was just a little bit on the bland side.
Very well.
All right, so that's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to leave us some feedback.
Yes. Please rate, review, and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Facebook, Instagram, Podomatic, you name it, we're there. Tell your friends.
Adios.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to travel through time. I bid you adieu.
Don't stop now!
You can't go! All the plants are gonna die!
Where are you going? I've got to return some videotapes.
Bye, Felicia.
Okay,
let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. The Black Hole. That's going to be lame. Okay. Yes.